Hi, this is Kim Watson. Welcome to a weekly outlook. I just want to really update you with where we are with these markets and, as I say, what could be coming up this week. Important thing at the moment, I just want to run through the news very briefly. Key news: we've got the G20 meetings that have started today. We have already seen comments coming out from them. They could be market movers, and we could see quite a few of those. So I expect volatility so long as we've got the G20 meetings going on. So day one is today, day two tomorrow, and leading into those, before those and after those, we tend to get, as I say, volatility. Now, tomorrow, key news coming out, we've got the policy minutes if you're trading the Aussie dollar. That generally can create some volatility through that point, and we've got the Reserve Bank of Australia governor speaking later on then at 4:15, so a bit of a key bit of speaker and some key minutes coming through there. As I said, leading into Tuesday, and of course we've got the G20 meeting still continuing. Leading into Wednesday, important data coming out for the UK here, the employment data. The most significant number is the average earnings. Will be watched quite carefully to see how it compares with inflation. So significant number coming out there. Following on from that, we've got the FOMC economic projections at 6 p.m. because we're still that hour difference then. Significant, and we will obviously get to the statement. Now, there is expected to see on Wednesday evening there an interest rate increase. The conference at 6:30 is the most significant factor thereafter, so we'll be watching out for what's said and done from that. Leading into Thursday, UK retail sales 9:30, and then the ECB, MPC meeting, the Bank of England meeting. Again, really, there's no post-conference there at all until later on. We've got a speaker coming through, so really no expectation of increases. The votes, if as long as they stay the same, that I wouldn't expect too much movement coming from that one. In that respect, until we see a speaker. Now, Ramsden speaking later. Just check due to deliver closing remarks of international fintechs. Okay, not necessarily going to be too much of a movement there. So that leads us into Friday. We've got Canadian core retail sales, which can be a bit of a move of Canadian dollar. And then at 12:30, US durable goods, not a big mover, but short-term volatility we generally get from that. So that's it for the week in terms of significant numbers. Let's have a look at the charts. I'm going to start off with the euro as I always do, and just keep things in line. Taking a weekly view of this at the moment. Once it pops itself in, there we go. Still consolidating. In fact, I'm going to just show you the commitment of sentiment on this from the commitment of traders reports. And as you can see, we've got a pitch up here. It's gone up again. The number of long contracts is increased again, so it's getting a bit bullish again. I was expecting maybe I was getting a little bit towards the bearish side on the euro at points last week, but it held its own. Weekly, from a weekly perspective, it's consolidated in this phase, which could at some point be broken. Now, we're not obviously too near to breaking it at the moment, but not that far. When you look at the dailies here, sentiment's still a bit, as I say, the sentiment, the price action is still quite flattish. At the moment, it's popped in a lower high on the dailies from last week, but today ending up quite strong. There was talk that there'll be an interest rate increase next year, would you believe it, which was significant enough to create some volatility. So and some upside approval. That's pretty much it on the euro dollar. So the pound dollar, let's have a look at the pound dollar. We'll come out and look at the sentiment first on the pound. So British pound, and well, it's still very low actually, but it pitched up a little bit. Again, I've talked about this recently. You can just see in there, if it's not quite crossed the line, if it crossed the line, got negative, I'd be much more bearish on the pound, but it's remaining quite healthy there. The pound's held up quite well overall. And in fact, today we've seen quite a shove. Let me just push on forward a little bit. So the weekly perspective, well, it was pitching up as of last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, pitched up a little bit. Bullish Harami continuation. We've seen a break towards the weekly 200 potentially, and that for me at the moment seems like a key point. Now we have broken out of this short-term consolidation here on the dailies here. Now, was I talking about this being dailies last week? Get me back. This was weeklies. Beg your pardon. I just realised I'd run into started talking about dailies. Consolidation here. Now we're pushing up on this daily point of view, not too far short of the monthly R1. There is some horizontal resistance potentially around that sort of area, just short of it with these prior highs here, the bodies of those, some tails and bodies sitting across the other side there, may just stifle it, but the momentum starting to pick up in it. It's put a higher low in. It's almost inverted the euro in a sense with the higher lows rather than the lower highs. So it's looking like it could have some further upside there. Dollar yen. Dollar yen's a funny old one at the moment because we see it should be gaining strength and then all of a sudden it's flying up when everything's coming down, and it's a real bitty one. Today we've seen this sort of movement down. Let's just look at the sentiment there on the yen. So still slipping away. The negativity maybe is still slipping away. And well, still got potential to push on down really. If the US dollar starts rolling a little bit more and softening, there's no reason why this won't push on to the downside. But it has broken the trend early last week. Early last week. It looked like it was going to be on for its monthly pivot there, but it hasn't so far. Choppy at best is the answer really. Aussie dollar. Let's look at the sentiment while it's loading here. Let's just have a look at the Aussie dollar sentiment. Now this was looking like it was going to switch negative, and it's still looking pretty. The volumes are sort of still dropping there. I say volumes, but the net long positions are still dropping off there. So it's still a bit of a bearish influence, I suppose. It's or sentiment. It's sorry, just get rid of this. It's pretty well shown in this weekly picture as well. Big bearish engulfing we ended up with last week, and it's already pitched a little bit below that. If you look at the shorter time frames here, the dailies, well, it's sold off. Big pivot swing there. Friday sold off some more. Today it's holding on its own at the moment, but it may still have some further downside. Of course, it could be affected by the tariffs, etc. yet. So we'll see how it goes. But it has gone back negative on the dailies here at the moment. Okay, and finally the Canadian dollar sentiment. Let's have a look at that whilst that's cooking. Canadian dollar sentiment there. Well, it's pretty flattish. It's not really changed too much, so sentiment's pretty flat on there. In terms of, I mentioned it last week in how we were approaching and looking to break these prior highs again. We'd already did it the previous week. Well, we pushed through that weekly 100 now, and it's got through what was a resistance region or area, and pushed up and ended up really strong at the end of the week there. That's the US dollar versus the Canadian dollar, which has lost more ground. Now, on the RSI, there's a bit of divergence kicking across from these highs there. It did pitch down quite low in between them, though. We're suggesting it might be a completely separate movement, but we do have the weekly pivot below, which yet to maybe touch, but a move back towards that weekly pivot, the 8, the 500, etc., sitting there may just provide a bit of support before we see yet another push up there. Again, potentially affected by tariffs, etc. Okay, that's pretty much it for this week. Nothing else significant there. As I said, the key things, of course, the G20 meeting today to continue through to tomorrow is the most significant factors there. And of course, we've got the interest rate increase potential, a high potential for the US dollar, and nearly said it again, the ECB, of course, the Bank of England decision come later in the week there. Right, have a great one. Bye for now.